I did a movie called Detroit. It was directed by Catherine Bigelow. She came to me and said, "Do you realize that half of your face plays more comedic and the other half plays more dramatically?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Yeah, your left half of your face plays warmer and your right half of your face plays." And it was like a death scene that we were trying to do. And she had realized to shoot me from the right versus from the left. It changed the way I saw everything. It changed the way I saw how I move throughout scenes or whatever. Just on the like the way my face is set up, certain things will read differently.
I just like you switch with Quint. I need to be on this side. Can we do?
My goodness, where to begin? I guess Lionel, I'm going to start with you because we're in the midst of season 3 of The Bear, which just dropped on Hulu, but it is season 2 that you are honored for. So, what's your take on just how The Bear and all your shows really? It's not just great TV seasons; it's just great television. Period. What makes The Bear great television? Period.
I think it's the thing with all the shows, it's like it has a human side that people could connect to. It's like it's very porous. It's different characters that represent different kinds of people. So it's not just one focal point of a character that everyone can attach themselves to. They see either the friends or a different family member or themselves in one character and another character. So it feels like a family. And I think that's the connecting point for that show, honestly.
Okay, so Tyler, full disclosure, my friend, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, so I have a very, very special, soft place in my heart for Abbott Elementary, in addition to it being a great show, and I love the episode with the Franklin Institute. But what about you? What is your take on just how Abbott Elementary? It's just great television, not just specific to the season, but just overall.
I think Lionel was right. I think it starts with the characters. I think, you can put compelling characters in really any scenario, and they'll work and they'll give you something that you can connect to. And I think Quinto started off by writing some really compelling characters who were very different from each other and who were not just forced to have to work together, but choose each other as a family. And I think that's something that resonates with people across the board. We all have our given family, but then there's the one that we choose to forward this life with. And I think it's also just, the simplicity in the choice. Like a school setting it's the simplest choice, but it's really one that leads to, I guess, network TV. It was just really smart on her part from the beginning to start there. And then, throw some kids in there. It's going to be chaotic. We can get some comedy out of that.
Oh, well, we're going to get to that, Tyler, because that is a great question for SAG members who are watching. But Bowen, for season 49, okay, let's say that again. Season 49 of SNL. My God, that's bonkers crazy. Also bonkers crazy of when I saw Chevy Chase doing Weekend Update when I was a little kid for the very first season. I've been with you for 49 straight years, but season 49 in particular, it's become the SNL as appointment television. Everybody watches. This is your 6th, if I'm correct, your 6th season, right? And because of all the confidence, because of all the popularity, how does that give you as an actor so much confidence to take big swings when you're doing your sketches and creating new characters for the show?
Well, thank you for assuming my confidence. I feel like it ebbs and flows. Yeah, I think like a lot of people who work at SNL, if you take a little poll, like people tend to come in a little bit more self-assured than when they leave. And I think that just speaks to how you just give up every like muscle of control as you like kind of like walk through this like crucible that is that place. But I feel like I just always share any time like anyone in the cast or any of the writers, anyone in the crew is honored with any kind of recognition. I feel like it's all a very shared communal thing. Like it's every week is this shared goal, and I feel like we just want to get it to the finish line every single Saturday. And it's that Lorne Michaels thing. Like you don't do it because it's ready, you do it because it's 11:30. And that's just how we do it. And it's a huge privilege every time I get to.
It's a huge to watch. It's just especially that you can just go back and watch everything on Peacock because all 49 seasons are there. So, Paul, you are already an Emmy winner for writing, and here this is your sixth nomination that we're celebrating here. Your first for performing a supporting actor in a comedy series. What did that Emmy nomination mean to you to get recognized for your performance instead of writing and producing?
Well, finally, it was a shock, to be honest, and it was really it was really touching and particularly meaningful because I started writing because I wanted to perform and I wanted to act, and it's so hard as an actor to book a job. You're up against tons of amazing actors, and you audition for things, and so for me, I started writing as a means to get to perform and get my voice out there. So to be recognized as an actor, I was very moved by it.
Okay, so there have to be moments from these seasons that you're nominated for that you feel most proud of, but from the other side of the camera, when I'm watching, when I look at Tyler, when I look at the season 2 finale of Abbott Elementary, the confession scene was so beautiful, so emotional, so earned, because now you're by that point 2 seasons in. So what moment from season 2 of Abbott are you most proud of for your performance in particular?
It's interesting. I'm not really positive what you guys ended up seeing with that scene. Like, I try not to watch the end result of the big Janine and Gregory scenes because so much happens in the edit, and we shoot them, I think, from its most mild to its most severe. It just has a grading scale. So we'll do like 6 to 10 takes of that. And I don't know what actually gets cut together, but it doesn't really help me to see it. So I think I have to go off of what it felt like. And I think that scene from season 2 felt really good. It felt like when we walked away from it, like we squeezed everything that we could squeeze out of it. And, we did it in a way that wasn't too heavy-handed, but then also, still fit the tone of network TV. It was also just a big episode because we were in Philly and at the Franklin Institute and we're house cats. Like, we love Warner Brothers. We don't like to leave. So it was very difficult to do. And I think I'm just most proud of the fact that we not only pulled it off from across the country, but that scene seemed to have resonated with people in the same way it resonated with us on the day.
Absolutely. So Lionel, I think I know what you're going to choose. I could throw it out there, but I'd rather hear it from you.
Really, it was I was trying to think of a joke when you said that, and I had nothing. I blinked. Yeah, I think it's from the Honeydew episode. I think it's the last scene that Marcus and Luca have. And I think because when we were we always do a rehearsal before we shoot, and we rehearsed the scene, and we actually shot that in Chicago because of Poulter's schedule. And we did this one rehearsal where we just kind of did for the motions and the lines, and we did it through one time. And one of the chefs that was helping us that worked at the restaurant we were shooting at, after we did the scene once, he was on the side. There was this guy, he was just folded up, holding on for dear life. He's just like, that's some real shit right there. And then he just started tearing up. And it was mostly because of that, because you knew that it's rare that you get to see something in real time connect with people. Well, I imagine Bowen, SNL, you have an audience, so you can see jokes landing, and it's probably rewarding in a cool way. But we shoot this in a vacuum, so it was really cool where you get to see this heartfelt moment connect, and that's the thing that people love about this show. So that was my favorite moment.
Oh, that absolutely. Again, that 4th episode, I think Honeydew, is fantastic, and bravo. And that, listen, that's an open question for you, Bowen, especially because, like Lionel pointed out, you can hear the audience reaction. So based on what a sketch that you hear the audience reacting to, or just a personal favorite for you, what was the moment from season 49 for your performance that you're most proud of?
Well, I'm gonna really sell out the live aspect of SNL right now, or just abandon that, because I feel like I really enjoyed a pre-tape sketch the most this season, where we were like within a week, like we wrote, we shot, we edited it, and like that was kind of, those end up being sort of my favorite moments season to season, no matter what the sketch is. But we did this we did something where Sydney Sweeney was the host, and it's a backstage piece where she realizes where I'm like, she finds out that like I'm just playing gay for laughs, and it's my meal ticket, and it's like all these ridiculous things. And I learned, I mean, I feel like it was this nice convergence of like just writing the sketch, producing it, making sure like we had an intimacy coordinator on set, which we normally don't have on SNL because it's very expedient and disposable. But I mean, yeah, like that, it's like what Lionel's saying. It's like you don't have this immediate knowledge of whether something works until it's in front of an audience. And with the pre-tapes, you're kind of locked into it. You can't go back. You can't like show it at dress and then go like, oh, I know what to do, and then like reshoot it and then and then give a different finished product for air. So I just really liked that sort of Rube Goldberg machine of getting it all to like to its finished product within 4 days.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I didn't realize it was that fast. Paul, what about you? I mean, season two, I mean, really, and honestly, same with Abbott, same with Bear. I mean, SNL is like a beast unto itself, but season two really went to another level. You know, season three, you know, went to another level. And so, what was your the proudest moment from season three of Hacks?
You know, I think there's probably two in Bulletproof, the finale of this season. Jimmy, my character, makes sort of this grand overture and runs onto a plane in a very rom-com way, and tells Kayla, played by Meg Stalter, that he wants her to be his partner. And that scene was so fun. And it was so fun because it was not just Meg and I, but you know, all of the background and all of our guest actors like really helped make that scene so funny, because we knew it was funny when we were writing it, but doing it on the day, it just felt even better. And then I also got to do something crazy, which was I got to tell Jean Smart, who plays Deborah, I got to tell her that she got this white whale that she got late night. And that moment was really special because, I mean, to share the screen with Jean Smart is special, period. But to do that was really, I mean, it was emotional for everybody because it was, the whole show has built to this moment. So it was not hard to draw on that because it felt like, you know, it was just a very special, touching thing. And so I felt very lucky to get to be a part of that scene.
Okay, so when you remember your lines, I think you rehearse them and you think your performance is going to go one way. All right. And then Tyler, you go out to the set, you know, you're standing there with your phenomenal cast. How does the energy, the ensemble, bring something out of your performance that surprised even you?
Oh, it happens like every rehearsal. It's so interesting. Like when you're in an ensemble, you kind of over time get used to the rhythms of your castmates. But what's so interesting with our show and our cast in particular is it's as if everyone knows what you're expecting and decides to subvert that and decides to pick the sixth choice. So that's why I think the way we shoot kind of lends to it. We shoot everything kind of like almost as if it's live because we have 3 cameras going at one time. And you catch so many authentically natural reactions to things because of that, because we're constantly looking and evolving the scene as we shoot it. You'll never see a take that's exactly the same. And it keeps it fresh and it keeps it new. And again, not to mention that we have 20 some odd kids usually at any given time who are liable to do anything, scripted or not. And it just keeps it real. I think it keeps it from, you know, stopping becoming formulaic. The only difficult part in that is, as a fan of like each of my castmates, I find myself just watching scenes sometime unfolds, and it's like, holy shit, what an interesting way to take that. Even after we had rehearsed it 4 or 5 times, you still found something new. So I think that's the fun of working with an ensemble that's constantly trying to sharpen each other, and it's something I would imagine all of these shows have, you know what I mean? To a certain, with casts that are this good. I think it's what's required to make a show really work nowadays.
Right. What's your take on that, Lionel? Because Tyler brought up some really interesting points about that ensemble aspect of it.
I 100% agree. Let's move on. No, I'm kidding. No, I that is a great point. I think it is cool because you do get used. We do a lot of like rehearsing because it's a cool. It's like two components to it. Like it's a rhythm that like Store likes to have with the show, and everything's like moves at a certain pace, and it's like such a good cast. So everyone like what Tyler's saying, like they know that everyone's used to one another, and they're finding different ways to like surprise each other. And also there's a physical component to it as well, because there's also like a lot of like kitchen choreography that goes with it. So I think that helps with the lines, because you're like, we're going to say this over here, then we have to like sear this or do this, and then like we're going to finish it over here. So it kind of helps you to place like lines in a certain place. So it helps with it's cool because we'll run the lines. It's like, all right, let's start placing it. We'll put everyone in place, and then we run it again. And it now feels new and fresh.
All right, so Bowen, your situation, being live and having new characters every week, sometimes within the same show, uh, what is and then the guest stars. I mean, so not only do you have your ensemble, but you've got guest stars every week, or guest hosts. So how does that, and even with the live aspect of it all, just bring something out of your performance that you weren't even prepared for?
Yeah, I think having a host each week kind of gives the show this like procedural quality. Like, Ego Wodum talks about how it feels like we're on like a medical drama. Like there's like a new patient every week, and not that there's a patient, but it's like there's someone to take care of. We just have to like make sure like this person like has like the cleanest bill of health before Saturday comes. And on top of that, like every word in the title of SNL has to do with time. So Saturday, it's at night, it's live, and between those three things, like there is just constant room for error in a way that I think Lauren and everyone at the show embraces. Like something's gonna go wrong no matter what. Like someone's eye line is gonna be off, or someone's gonna say the wrong line, or someone's gonna like, I don't know, like miss the cut on a camera angle or something. And like, I think not to get all like heady about it, but I feel like that's what comedy kind of is in its essence. It's an error and stimulus. It's like someone says something off, or someone behaves something in a way that is not right, or someone like just something does not land in the way that we've perceived a certain order to be. Anyway, okay, TED Talk over. I feel like I
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. Keep going. It's
yeah,
good.
yeah, oh good. Oh, thanks,
Good.
Paul.
Yeah.
Paul, by the way, like and I have been friends for a while, and I feel like so everyone look up Holly Lou mixtape. Is that
Oh,
so
God.
horrifying? Oh
No, I mean,
anyway,
thanks, Bowen. Thank
it's
you.
so good. Paul and Lucci used to do sketches together, and I feel
And we have been Bowen Yang fans for years.
yeah, it's very cool to sort of be in this category with everybody together. And anyway, I feel like in learning sort of the way that comedy constantly sort of is relative to like something cultural, like I feel like this is something that like Paul and I like came up doing together at like places like UCB, and then we would just move up to like SNL being this like, I don't know, like final sort of boss in a way. And then catering to the host is the thing that kind of like makes it something very, very immediate and signature and identifiable, like for the rest of time. Like people can always like go back and watch their favorite stuff depending on who the host was, and that kind of, there's a nice sort of immediacy to that.
Absolutely. Paul, Hacks for me, it's totally my kind of jam. It's about, an actress, who's still very actory. I just love that stuff. So, but I feel like every character on Hacks is so fully realized and larger than life, and the performances are so committed. There's so much energy and vitality to it. Again, same question for you. How does that elevate your performance, especially coming from the standpoint of as a showrunner writer?
I mean, it's such a cheat that I get to share the screen with the actors that are on Hacks, because they are all so good. And they're also really decent people. And I don't know, I just feel like when you watch something, you can kind of feel that. I mean, Jean Smart is an icon. She is so fully committed and so that character that when you're in a scene with her, it's so helpful and easy because you're talking to Deborah Vance, you're not talking to Jean. And Hannah Einbinder had never been on screen before, and she is like super naturally talented. I mean, everybody, even in the ensemble, like I said, I get to share the screen with Meg Stalter, who is another person like Bowen and I, who came up from alt comedy in New York and who I've been a fan of forever. And the fact that on the show, she's gotten not only to be so brilliantly funny and show her light, but she's also gotten to this season, especially change gears and be a little bit more dramatic and show some more emotional stuff. It's really, it is a embarrassment of riches, and we feel very, very lucky that we, I mean, like Bowen said, it's like you become a family, and we're this little group of thespians that have gone through a lot together, and every season we get closer and closer.
Okay, so Lionel, you kind of touched on this for a second, but this leads to a question that I have gotten in the habit of asking during these SAG-AFTRA Foundation conversations because of who our audience is. So when it comes to, we're talking about performance and craft and takes and whatever, but before you do all that, you have to remember your lines, pages and pages of lines, like monologues full of like so much dialogue. So my question, I'm going to start with you on this, Lionel. How do you remember the script? How do you remember your lines? What is your trick? Because everybody's different.
Well, I don't know. I think I don't really have a trick. I just read it. I like to read it the lines like 5 times before I go to sleep and 5 times right when I wake up in the morning. Like every day, that's like what I do, and it just kind of sticks with you in that way. So it's not really a trick. It's just simple, I guess. I don't know. I feel embarrassed by not having a much more elaborate answer.
Well, what about Bowen? You're shaking your head in agreement there.
Well, no, I find it so I can't believe that like say this line and then sear this and then go to like move to this burner.
Yeah.
I know.
Like another structure. Does that help you, Lionel?
I think that helps because it's giving you something physical to do, and it helps you remember, oh yeah, this is the general like shape of the conversation, and we're gonna we're talking here. It feels much more natural, and I think giving something a physical action while you're doing it cues you and helps you remember it in an easier way.
What if you burn the steak?
It doesn't matter. It's been cooking for it's low heat, it's just on there all day. That no one ever noticed. Color correct.
Wow. Are you a better cook now though? Now that you have to do it?
No, I do more baking stuff. I don't get to do the kitchen train like the cooking training. I do I like work with like the our culinary producer Courtney Storer and like different people each season and just like learn different ways to like bake things like focaccia, or it gets more elaborate each season. So I'm getting to learn like how to make caramel from scratch, which I didn't know it was as simple as it was. And just different things like homemade Nutella. I don't know. I can go on, but yeah, I just get to leave with like these things that I can like apply and like look like a hero showing up to like a dinner party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of like doing an activity to remember your lines, I was doing a conversation with Coleman Domingo for the movie Sing Sing, which is great, by the way.
Yes,
and
it is.
Wonderful movie. So I asked him that question. He said he records the dialogue. He says it into like a recorder, and then he puts his headphones on. He goes out for a run, and that's how he remembers his lines. And I'm like, well, that's different. So Tyler, do you have a method, if you will, for how you remember your lines?
It's kind of like I feel like I agree with Lionel. It's not like a real like method, I guess. But it is very similar in the sense of like I'll go over it the night before. And then, the morning of, depending on, how dense it is, I'll just kind of drill it. But I think there is definitely something to like last year we were coming in off of the strike. Like we got into production, like I think like 2 weeks after the strike was over. And having been down for so long, not using that muscle, it was harder to catch a rhythm. So there definitely is more difficult at the top of the season versus, you get to episode 14, 15, and now it's like clockwork. So it's definitely a muscle that needs to like ramp up. But it's weird. There's no like real method, I guess, to the madness. It's just kind of like get it in there the night before and hopefully it sticks the next day. Yeah.
Bowen, what about you? I mean, especially because you're not playing the same character every show.
Well, we're working off of cue cards at SNL, so I feel like I don't have to memorize any dialogue, and that should disqualify me from this entire.
Actually,
Is
no,
that harder? I would imagine that would be harder.
A little bit, because it's just about like what it comes down to is you know, changes can be made like between dress and air and literally on air if the sketch is at the end of the night and it has to get cut down for time. Like there are writers like freaking out in the control room, like cutting down pages like as the show is on.
Oof.
And that is sort of the most thrilling part of it to me as the person who's on camera. Like it's very there's a sense of like danger to it and uncertainty, and that's kind of something that again you have to like embrace. Otherwise you get so I don't know, you just buckle under the weight of how like you can't think about like who's watching and like what's this gonna look like in like, you know, on a real package or something, you know, like these like silly frivolous considerations kind of go away anyway with with like memorizing dialogue. Like it helps to like not be locked on cards, but also, you know, you just have to find that right balance between like having it feel like you're just reciting something from a card that's like 6 feet away from you, or if it's just like naturally in your bones. And like like everybody here does a very good job of that.
all right, so Paul, you know, because you're at times probably writing that dialogue, does that help you remember your lines, or do you still have a process that you do?
Well, yeah, I guess it does help me memorize the lines because even if it's something that I'm acting in that I haven't written, I do write them out. Like the physical act of writing them helps me get it in my bones, kind of. But yeah, I think you know, I think all the actors here and you know actors that I admire like create a backstory and a world for their characters, and so I just get to do that because I have to. I'm like made to do that. And then it does help kind of get it in. But, you know, we don't really actually, we will do a line through sometimes for camera, but we don't actually have much time to rehearse. We don't do a lot of rehearsal. We move really fast and shoot a lot of pages in a day. So typically the cast, you know, sort of in like their cast chairs and holding we'll just kind of line through it together to help memorize the lines. And then, you know, you have to, I think, like Bowen was saying, be ready for whatever surprise comes. Because when you're in a scene with someone like Meg Stalter, those surprises happen all the time.
Well, for SNL, I mean, surprises happen like, you know, many times per show. I would imagine. Okay, I would imagine. And like when you have a guest host like Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph, who are SNL alums, obviously, and also nominated for Emmys this season. So big showing for SNL this year. So Bowen, just curious how when you are performing in front of the audience and you're working with great guest hosts and you're working with your great cast and they improvise and they do something unexpected that surprises you, how do you respond? Like what was like the biggest moment or maybe a big moment from the season 49 where you were thrown and you just had to be on your toes?
Yeah, I mean, I for the most part, like I think like a big sort of misconception about SNL maybe is that like people come and they're like, yeah, like we're gonna like really like prank each other and like catch each other off guard on air. But it's really like you get there and a lot of hosts are like, oh, I didn't realize you guys are so like studious and dutiful about like let's just read the script and let's just read what's on the card because you know it affects the camera cuts and all that. And but I will say that having well, this is the first season that I had like a friend like host. IO hosting was this big moment where it was like Paul and I like she like came up with us in New York and it was this incredible thing. And having her there and having her like lead several of her sketches where she was just driving it and doing such a good job of being like holding the center of a sketch, like that was so special to see. I tend to be okay though. I do a lot of meditation on Saturdays before the show. I tend to be like, I don't know, kind of centered as I can be. There was a sketch this season where Ega Wodum, who does Lisa from Temecula, there was another one this season where I think she was eating wings or so. Oh no, she was like putting sauce on wings. And all throughout the week, like there were she basically says a line, and then like I got Stefaned on air basically, where they changed the line on me, and then they just kind of like got my ass, and I totally broke, and I'm not proud, but it happens, and it's like I said earlier, it's like the most thrilling part of the week sometimes.
All right, so what you're here you all are, you're in this category for outstanding supporting actor in a comedy series. But as you were moving along with your career, and you were in the early days, really hustling and struggling and trying to make your mark. Like, uh, what was a turning point for you, Lionel? What was a moment that really kind of changed the game for your acting career before you got to The Bear?
Well, I think the thing that was The Bear that changed minds, because I came in a like a weird left of center way. I came up with Tyler the Creator, and like we were 20 and we made a sketch comedy show for Adult Swim. So it was like I kind of hit the ground, like dove in head first without like necessarily choosing to get in this career. An opportunity came and I kind of did that. We did that for like 3 seasons, three or so. And I was like writing and like just trying to be like, okay, like we'll write. And I just throw myself, kind of like what Paul's saying, you just like, I'll throw myself in whatever I make as like a character or whatever. And so The Bear was the one that kind of came along and shifted things where it's like, it is a weird thing where it's like it's weird getting compliments because you go your whole career without anyone acknowledging or like saying anything, or you only kind of get rejection essentially as you're like auditioning, and then there's a shift where people are giving compliments, so you have to like adjust to that. But I think The Bear was a shift for me.
What about Tyler? What about you? What was that moment where, like it took a turn for the better, and like there was a defining moment for you moving forward?
Interesting that you asked that. Like, especially here, I actually, when I was much younger, I did about 4 episodes of SNL. And I did one sketch. Jack Black was hosting, and it was his opening monologue. I was like 10. And in the opening monologue, he has this bit where he goes backstage and he goes to his dressing room where they're both supposed to be a bunch of kids that are there that are supposed to be his, and like his illegitimate children. And I remember there wasn't a line, and the joke was supposed to be, or at least a line for me, and the joke was supposed to be that he forgets my name. Like he has all these kids, he just doesn't remember mine. And I remember in that moment on night, and I know, Bowen, this probably sounds like hell for you now that I think about it. And I just heard what you said. I decided to throw a look in response to that I didn't do in rehearsal. And it was the first time I heard a big laugh. And that's when I think I began to understand comedy and how it worked kind of for me. And then like literally a year later, I roll into Everybody Hates Chris. That it was like that moment where I had gotten it and was like, okay, this is a rhythm. There's things happening around me all of the time. I, as an actor, need to be able to respond to those things. And it changed the way I worked for forever. And I think you can still see it kind of now in my work with Abbott, is like listen and respond is something you can do at the very bare minimum.
What is your take on that, Bowen?
That's incredible. I got to go back and watch this monologue now because like
Yeah, I
getting
think
a
it was
laugh off
50.
the look is so hard.
The timing wasn't the best it could be. I saw it like something. I'd seen it recently. I think my mom kept them, kept them all. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear what you think. Wow.
Well, Bowen, what about you? What's your moment that you sort of go back and look at? Yep, that was the turning point for me.
I don't want to, it's not just because Paul is here. It really is. I do think about this as like the thing. Like the first show I ever booked was Broad City, which Paul worked on. And it was my first time on a set, like a real set. And like I just had like my one line and I did it, and then did it on the day or whatever. And then like Lucia, a co-creator of Hacks, directed that episode, which just like, that was great. We're gonna have you stick around, and we're gonna like put you on a gurney. Like they just like added stuff for me like during the shoot, and I like didn't realize that things worked like this. And like I feel like I got this crash course in one day of like just being a day player on the show that I loved so much and still do. And then Lucia would also be there for when I got the call from Lauren to move me from the from the writing staff to the cast. Like she was there directing an episode of Nora from Queens that I was just like, there's all this kismet, I think, and all these things. And anyway, that was like the moment where I was like, oh wow, like I feel like I've broken into this new I don't know, concentric circle around like the community that like we all came up in.
All right.
I gotta add to it because I remember Lucia being like, you have to watch this tape of Bowen's audition. And Bowen was so unique and special and funny that it was like, this is the person for this part. Because Lucia and I had written the episode. And then I wasn't there that day. I wasn't working on Broad City that day. And Lucia called me and said, you have to come to set. This kid. So I came to set that day just to watch. And it was like, it was so clear. I mean, it is really full circle and wild that we're both nominated in this category. It is like, could make me cry, but it's crazy because you could see Bowen's talent from an audition tape, in a whatever it was, a pre-read years and years and years ago. But it's really wild.
In the formative moments of your career, then you book a gig where whether it's an actor or a director, something happens where you look at that moment and you go, I'm going to do that moving forward. Every single film, TV show, or stage production I do. So, Paul, was there an actor that you worked with or a director or anyone really, whose something happened at that moment working with that person when you looked at the person and said, oh my gosh, what a great idea that is. I'm totally doing that, taking that with me for the rest of my career.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I married that director. I mean, Lucia is the person who, when we found each other and Hacks is very much a show about two people that make comedy together. So it's very autobiographical for us. But she's the person that not only made me funnier and made me better as an actor because she is so good, but also, she has this confidence and belief and in like the purpose of making comedy that I guess is the thing that I really took from her. That is the most important lesson. I mean, she was one who was like, we're doing sketches and we're doing improv at the UCB and 150 people see it a night. We need to do videos. Let's put them online. And then it was like, we need to move to Los Angeles. We have to do this because we can do it. And she was like, you need to quit your survival job. So yeah, Lucia Agnello is the person that I think I continue to learn from and who makes me better every day.
What about you, Tyler?
I did a movie called Detroit. It was directed by Catherine Bigelow.
Oh, yeah.
And I had done so much work in the network TV space where you have a very limited amount of time. And she was the first one to key me into really taking my time in a scene, not trying to get it tight for 2140, you know what I mean? Like a network comedy. But then she also pointed something out that like it's not something I can do, but something I can be aware of. When you were shooting it, she would like really take time to set up shots and kept moving cameras a lot. And then she came to me and said, do you realize that half of your face plays more comedic and the other half plays more dramatically? And I was like, no. And she was like, yeah, your left half of your face plays warmer and your right half of your face plays. And it was like a death scene that we were trying to do. And she had realized to shoot me from the right versus from the left. And it changed the way I saw everything. It changed the way I saw how I move throughout scenes or whatever, just on the way my face is set up. Certain things will read differently. From the right side of my face, if I'm happy, it won't play as well versus the left side of my face. Same thing. If something is more dramatic or depressing in a way, it won't play as well from the left, just on how my facial structure works.
Wow.
So do you switch with Quinta? Are you like, can we switch?
Go, Paul.
No, I just like, do you switch with Quinta? I need to be on this side. Can we do
Not necessarily switch, but I think with the way our cameras work and how intimate they are, I'm aware of just blocking wise, I guess in the same way you would be from a theater perspective, what actually will translate. Like, where do I need to position myself to translate actually what I'm feeling, knowing that? And it wasn't until she pointed that out, that I looked back at stuff and went, there are moments where I see things, I'm like, that doesn't really look like what I was feeling. And that was the answer to that question.
Wow. Lionel, what's your take on that?
Well, on that specifically, I was just thinking about if you had different professions, how your life would have played. Like if you were a doctor, given um, but no, for me, it was interesting. It was when I was making the sketch comedy show, Lord of Squad. I worked with Jeff Tremaine. He kind of was a producer on the show, and I think my biggest takeaway from that was his overall approach to comedy. He taught me a lot about comedy, especially like sitting in the edit and all of that. But it was the way that he worked with like friends and like kept things very low to the ground, low stakes, and it taught me. Well, it just more so showed me that my favorite things are made by people who are friends. Like even when you said, Paul, where you like you met your wife, it was someone that you like. I think that's what makes comedy works. You need like an air of stupidity that comes from only from friends that you trust. And yeah, it made me say I was like everyone that I've always looked up to is like made things with their friends. So I want to find a way to always work with people I feel are friends, not just someone that you admire and respect.
All right, Bowen, what's your take on that question?
I feel like for now, while I'm at the show, while I'm at SNL, I feel like I learn the most from alums who come through. You were talking about that earlier, Scott. Like
Mhm.
Maya and Kristen both like separately and together when they're there together, just like download so much into everybody, and everyone's just like just so grateful just to catch whatever like lands their way. And I mean, like he's still at the show, but Keenan Thompson is someone who's just like talk about someone who's like done it for like their whole lives, and just is completely like sagely and like still warm and like so I just completely global in how he thinks about like performance and sketch. And while she was at the show, 80 Bryant and I kind of like 80 kind of like struck up this like mentorship with me. And it tends to be a lot of the people who've like been through that really specific and bizarre job of being at that show, who kind of just like help shape your experience of it.
All right, so the last question is, for every film you do, every TV show you do, you take something new away from the experience. So for each of the seasons that you were each nominated for, what was the takeaway for you when you got to the end of that season? So Paul, when you got to the end of season 3 of Hacks, like what was a new takeaway for you, not just as a producer writer, but as an actor?
That's a great question. I guess the takeaway from season 3 is, I know that this is like what you study and what, it's like such a towering oak, but the funniest things are true. And I just like steal so much from the people that I work with. I feel like Jean Smart brings so much of her life into the character. So I think what my biggest takeaway is like find the true thing, find the thing that within yourself you can bring to the scene to make it feel more grounded and real. Because, I come from hard comedy, and while Hacks is a comedy, it's got a lot of heart and a lot of emotion. And I think that what I've taken away is it's even more funny if you don't necessarily swing, but you just do the most genuine thing.
Mhm. Tyler, what's your take on getting to the end of season 2 of Abbott? Like, what was the takeaway for you after all that?
Um, I think the power of the ensemble. I would honestly say that. Coming out of the writer and actors strike, and then having to jump into a network TV schedule and crank out 14 when we're used to 22, and it's like it's truncated. We couldn't do what we wanted to do in the time. It really boiled down to everybody on set at one time and the rhythm coming back. Under uncomfortable circumstances, and like we had things that we really wanted to do that we just didn't get a chance to. An ensemble is an ensemble for a reason. It's not one person can carry any one thing. We kind of all need each other, and I think it just reinforced that for all of us as we kind of made our way through the season. you need good pieces around you. You really do. You're just as good as the person next to you.
Absolutely. Lionel, obviously, season 2 of The Bear was a game changer for Marcus. But what was the takeaway when you got to the end of season 2? Like, what did you walk away from that season with as an actor?
I think I learned like it's funny. I learned like what I said, the power of the ensemble, but I learned the difference for being in the driver's seat for just because it's a solo episode. And I think season 1 and like in the other episodes, you lean so much on the cast and I don't have to consider like carrying the load of it. And so I just being in the driver's seat, I learned how like how to consider everything in a different way where this episode is like you're like the thing that makes it work is this engine between me and one other actor, and then the rest of it is kind of like solo and me interacting with the world, having solo interactions more so than talking to like showing up, saying some lines and bouncing with people within the scene. So I think I just learned how much work it goes into when you are the focal point of an entire episode as opposed to like being a part of like playing a part to help support the driving story.
Okay, so Bowen, the end of your 6th season, the end of season 49, and with season 50 just moments away, weeks away, mind blown. What was the takeaway for you after the end of this past season?
I feel like, well, this was our first season in, yeah, it felt good to finish it sort of like with a finality to it, which we didn't get last season with the strikes. And um, I feel like the big takeaway this year was like presence, a sense of place. Like I feel like it took me a while to like get my bearings, and now I'm finally like looking at like the seats in the audience and the chairs and studying the flats. I'm like, oh, this is where like it's 8H. It's like there's so much history suffused here, and I feel like with all 4 of our shows, like there's this, it's very tied to like the location, whether it's like Vegas or Chicago or
Mm.
Philly. It's like I forget that it's New York. I forget that I like, you know how like I forget that I live in the city that I live in sometimes. I don't know if you guys
Yeah,
Yeah.
again.
like I forgot that this was a show. This is a New York show and it's a New York crowd. And like you might as well like tailor some parts of this, even though it's for like a global audience, like you might as well tailor some part of this to like the people who are in the room with you. And like if they're laughing, then chances are people at home are laughing. And you might as well like make it a little bit more intimate. It felt like I was downsizing in a way just to like the people within the walls of that space. And I feel like that was a fun, unexpected lesson to learn.
Well, this was a blessing. This conversation was a blessing. Cannot thank you all for your time, especially on a Sunday morning. So big, huge, massive congrats on your nominations for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. My name is Scott Mantz. I want to thank you again for watching the SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversation. And to all of you, we will see you soon on the red carpet.